The Black Legacy Project is produced by the nonprofit group Music in Common and is a musical celebration of Black history, bringing artists of all backgrounds together to record and compose songs central to the Black American experience. I spoke with co-directors Todd Mack and Trey Carlisle to hear how they are merging the past with the present in order to move forward.
We were inspired to create this in 2020 in the height of the killings of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. And we wanted to create spaces where Black and white Americans, and really all Americans, can come together and engage in intergenerational conversations, not just about the legacy of racism in the US, but the legacy of Black and white folks working in solidarity to help us move forward. So that was the inspiration for it. And as a result, what we do is we will go to a specific community, facilitate roundtable discussions that bring Black and white community members together to explore songs centered around the Black American experience and explore how they still relate to the issues today. And then we have local Black and white artists create present day interpretations of those songs, as well as original songs about how we can move forward.
Now, you said something that stood out to me. You were talking about, Black and white Americans coming together, all Americans, really, you said. And so, although the project is called the Black Legacy Project, you really have an emphasis on bringing people from all backgrounds together. Why is that so crucial?
Mainly because we're a mosaic of society in the States. We have people from all sorts of racial, ethnic, cultural, religious backgrounds. And while the conflict, and I'm going to call it a conflict because I think that's really the approach that we're taking to building solidarity and belonging and equity, is rooted historically in Black and white. In 2022, it's really the country as a whole that I think needs to address this.
Now, this is a musical celebration of Black history, as you were saying. Why was music the art form chosen for this project?
Music is a powerful tool of connection and empathy. And the empathetic and connecting aspects of music, we have found over the past 17 years, can be a powerful tool to enhance peace building and engage people in the same type of practices that we need to have in building peace, collaboration, and listening to one another, recognizing our interdependence and working together. But also, we recognized when we conceptualized the project, these songs that were written by Black and white artists alike, whether it's songs like Lift Every Voice and Sing, written by James Weldon Johnson, or whether songs written by white folks in solidarity, like The Hurricane by Bob Dylan. These songs that spoke to the legacy and realities of racial conflict and violence in the past, they still ring true today, and they have a special place in folks' hearts. So we wanted to create a space for folks to revisit these songs, see how they still relate today, and create new songs for how we can move forward.
Speaking to those songs that you're talking about, over 3 dozen local musicians came together for this project, which is amazing. And so you recorded 6 songs that address the theme Hope in a Hateful World. And 4 of the songs were, like you were just saying, songs that have been revisited, past songs, and then 2 originals. So tell me about that process of the song selection, and just kind of reimagining and revisiting and examining these songs.
One of the things that we do is choose songs that have a direct connection to the community that the project is in. And that's a lot of exhaustive research that Trey primarily takes the lead on, looking at what songs, what artists have a connection, or even themes have a connection to the local community.
I'm glad that you brought up that connection that the songs have to the local history, because that was something that really amazed me when I was reading about the project. All of those selections, the 4 existing songs, have a tie-in to Berkshire, specifically with Black history. So can you share some of that connection that the songs have to the area?
So one of the songs we chose was Strange Fruit, which was written by Abel Meeropol and made popular by Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday performed a couple of times in the Berkshires, especially in the later part of her career when she was performing Strange Fruit. And then Strange Fruit was written by Abel Meeropol, who was friends and associates with W.B. Du Bois. W.B. Du Bois is like an iconic thought leader and advocate for Black legacy. And he was born and raised in Great Barrington in the Berkshires. So that was the tie that Strange Fruit has to the song, to the Black Legacy Project and to the Berkshires. We also had folks create an artistic interpretation of W.B. Du Bois' poem, My Country 'Tis of Thee. And then we chose Lift Every Voice and Sing for artists to explore, which was written by James Weldon Johnson, who would travel to the Berkshires to do some of his most meaningful writings in poetry. And then We Shall Overcome, we also chose as a song to explore, which was made popular by Pete Seeger, who has close ties with the Guthrie family, like Woody Guthrie, Arlo Guthrie, whose home base is in the Berkshires.
Todd, I know that you found that in response to the murder of your friend and bandmate Daniel Pearl, who was abducted and murdered in Pakistan in 2002. And so this was in response to that. And you've done amazing work in over 300 communities helping repair these fractures. So how does it feel to be carrying on this type of legacy work? And then Trey, how does it feel to be part of it as well?
Wow.
That's a great question. And thank you for that acknowledgement. And, I think the work that we're doing with the Black Legacy Project, really like everything that I think Music in Common has been engaged in, is how do you harness the power of music, this universal language, as a way to sort of open doors that don't open on their own. I think there's such a direct correlation to what we're doing now, as much as the work that we've done in interfaith contexts or in overseas in the Middle East or the Far East. And it's just amazing to be a part of it, and it's amazing to see it grow. And it's amazing to have new young leaders who start out as participants in our programs come take the reins and help lead it.